You're listening to Ernestly Speaking, the only weekly podcast that covers friends, foes, and anything that goes. And now, for your badass host, Ernest Owens. And we're back for a new episode of Ernestly Speaking with your host, Ernest Owens, myself. Well, we're here in April. Time is going so fast, I feel like there's so much happening. Like, it's like, damn, we're already in April of 2022. Like, the third quarter is already done like that. We're already to the second quarter. I think things are just starting to warm up. Like, mentally, I feel like we're like in like February. Nope, we're in April. I mean, I'm happy the weather is kind of getting its act together. I mean, I think there was like a little snow squall or whatever a couple of days ago. Like, what the fuck? Like, I'm still debating on what to wear now. I'm just like staying in the house. Like, every day I try to like plan what I'm going to wear, and then it's like the weather changes. I'm like, you know what, let me go ahead and get this cardigan. Like, I'm still wearing sweaters. It's annoying, you know. And then if it's not that, it's like a big old moonsun. It's like a big old bunch of rain. But you know, life could be even more complicated. Like, I don't know, volunteering to help the Ukraine and then hearing from the Peace Corps that, oh, actually, you know, you might experience racism as a black person because, you know, racism still is happening in the middle of a war. Facts. There had to be a disclaimer put out internationally that, you know, for those who are black that's helping refugees, they might, encounter racism and slurs and whatnot. True story. You can look this up. It's ridiculous. And I'm thinking to myself, so people have time to be racist in the middle of needing support. And by all means, I don't believe that most of the Ukrainians who are experiencing this devastation is racist. But it's just sad that there has to be a disclaimer, like to black people across the world who have the capacity and the compassion to, you know, yield their time. But, you know, racism doesn't go away. It doesn't just dissolve overnight. No matter how much people thought the books that they were going to read, you know, back in 2020 were going to fix that. But I'm starting to feel like I said this on Instagram, that I'm sitting here like, did anyone actually read those books? You know, like, white people, did y'all, you know, I know y'all bought them, right? Or maybe y'all borrowed them. Who knows? Like, you took all those fancy pictures on your coffee table, and it was all these cute books and color schemes, and y'all matching the books with the lattes and shit. It was wow. And I was like, oh, this must be something for real. And then I realized it doesn't look like a lot of you all read those books. It looks like you all bought the books, but buying the books versus reading the books. It's kind of like reminds me of like a lot of people say they went to Howard, but a lot of people don't say they graduate from Howard. Inside joke. But you know, a lot of people do, like, they'd be like, oh, I went to Howard. I'm like, oh, okay. And then I'm like, oh, what did you study? Oh, yeah, I studied this. I'm like, oh, what year? When you graduate? And then it's crickets. So I kind of feel that same way with these books. I'm like always wondering, like, did people actually like read those books? Like, How to Be an Anti-Racist. They were, that's such a powerful book. I'm like, well, what was powerful about it? I mean, think about it. You know, you're learning how not to be racist. I'm like, I mean, the book is how to be an anti-racist. So, yeah. And I'm like, And those are the moments where I'm kind of like skeptical about progress, because it's like no one reads the books. No one actually, you know, go to the training and seminar, they RSVP, like they, you know, do the Eventbrite for the racial workshops and trainings, but no one actually takes any of this seriously enough to apply it in real life. So it becomes super, you know, performative. But, you know, tis life. And I think this week specifically showed us a lot of that in our own right. You know, this week really showed us, you know, just how much people will put on of a show in the name of, quote unquote, wrong is wrong. Violence isn't the answer. Okay. So, you know, in other news, before I get into the news, because I know a lot of you all have your thoughts about some topics. And this week I gave you all a special edition, so there's an update to that special edition. But there's also a bunch of other things that's been going on this week that I want y'all to stay woke about. So as far as my book go, good news, I am in EndNotes mode. So for people who don't understand what endnotes are, I'm doing endnotes for my book. I'm at that part. Like the story, the body of work itself, pretty much got the story down packed. The book itself is pretty much down packed. As far as my writing, like I don't have to do any crazy major facelifts or anything changes. Like what you all are going to be reading, like I pretty much have my argument, the case for counsel culture. I've made my case. Now I have to do endnotes, which is like the research part where you have to just cite the sources, the books, the audio, the things that are referenced in the book. And I thought it was exhausting. It has been slightly, but you know what? It's not that bad. I mean, to be clear, some people said, well, why didn't you do this already? Or something you're going to think like, why didn't you do this already as you go? Because books go through serious variations and edits. And so when I first wrote this, I've been writing this for a year, and counsel culture has evolved, and so has the book and the topics and things. And so imagine if I had my original first draft and I had cited all of my sources and did all the bibliographies and the references and endnotes and all that. And then all of a sudden, we realized, you don't need this section, or you don't need this part, or this chapter needs to be this. I would have wasted a lot of time. So I don't like to waste time. I like to work smarter. I like to work harder, because in certain situations, you're like, oh no, this is going to be a pain to have to rearrange and reshuffle. I didn't want to do that. So I just said, you know what, when we get to the final, draft, once I am done with the argument and I don't have to do any more revisions and anything of that nature, then that's when I'm going to go and look at what this draft is giving. And so I do feel like this feels better, because I know that we're really at the end, and that makes me feel good, because I know some of you have been asking questions about I want to see the cover, I want to see the pre-sale, and when's the date? I am going to have to be quiet on that for now, but it's coming. Everything's coming very, very soon, as far as, the more outward facing public updates. But I've been hustling, man. I've been grinding. I've been putting in that work. And I've been having a good time. I really love my book. I'm in love with it. I'm in love with it for myself. I'm in love with it for you all. I think that it's going to be a big damn deal. I really do. I just think the timing could have not been perfect. And there's times where, in the past, I would say a couple of months ago, last year, I was like, oh my goodness, will next year, early next year, be too late? And I'm like, no, because now people, I feel like you all, right, know counsel culture, or let me be clear, you are aware of the topic. I'm going to redefine the damn thing, but you all know about it enough where it's interest to buy a book in the topic. I think sometimes you could be ahead of your time. And I kind of was ahead of my time in the interest of the book, but that's good though. That was good for me, because commercially, you got to catch a trend before everyone jumps on the trend. So there's not a lot of books out there about counsel culture, especially books written by Black queer millennials, young people, Black people, queer people, progressive voices that are in defense of counsel culture. A lot of the books I've read so far that's out, most of them, I want to say about 95% of them is written by a white person. I would say about 85% of them are slanted towards this very negative condemnation of counsel culture. So a book like mine is going to disrupt the market. It's going to disrupt the books out there. And the thing is that because we know it takes a long time to write a book and to get a book coming out and everything, those who want to jump on the cancel culture bandwagon and try to put something out like the way I'm putting out, it's going to take a process. You're going to have to do a proposal. You're going to have to go through revisions and draft. They have to schedule you in the book. And so the good thing is that my book will be arguably the first of its kind to really hit the market from a major publication. And that feels good. And that's exciting, because that helps reshape and reset the conversation. But I'm very grateful for my agent and my team and everyone who, before this was a hot topic, I had been writing on it for years. Some of you all may know that I wrote that wonderful piece in 2019 to former President Barack Obama about counsel culture. And I literally used the headline, basically that boomers, don't get counsel culture, and Obama doesn't understand how it works. And the funny thing about writing that piece was that set up the that was my debut in the New York Times. I'd never written for the New York Times ever in my life after years of pitching. And listen, that could be a whole special edition if I ever care to tell that story. But that was a whole situation to get there, to get to write that op-ed. But it happened. And when it did, it blew up. It got an international New York Times. I was on several radio interviews. It was a hot topic. People were reading it, talking about it. It was a thing. Because one, to some people, I boomered the former president. So that was a moment, and basically in that op-ed, I was explaining to Mr. Obama and those who think like him that cancel culture is more than just people not liking things or whatever. And I really laid out the premise of what would be my book. And I didn't know that at the time. I didn't know at the time that op-ed would inspire me to talk more about cancel culture and then turn around and, propose a book. I didn't see that coming. And that's why I always tell people, you just have to really be in the moment, really run with your interest, your taste. If you have a real strong idea and opinion about something, pursue it, pursue that inquiry, because there's something there. And I knew when I wrote the piece and how I felt about it, I just really felt like no one was listening to this other perspective on this topic. And there's been researchers and other great academics who have done some great work that I interviewed for the book. More on that later. But we're creating that other narrative. We're creating that other language that makes cancel culture a lot different than how it's being, ostracized in the media. And it's going to be fun. I really love it. And I have a sound of relief, because when you start to work on endnotes, it's really over, because yes. And the good thing is I'm at the part of my endnotes where I have found every source to every part in my book. So now that part is done. So now I'm going to get everything in Chicago style formatting. And then that's it. Then we got to, take it up top. So it's a process, but writing a book, this is the first time I've done it. I've done it the way I always want to do it. I've always joked about that and said that I never want to self-publish a book. Nothing against people that do self-publish books, of course. By all means, get it out there. But I've always wanted to go through the process so that I could tell people. And it's a journey. It is a journey. But what you get in the end, that quality, that extra oomph, that's just, to be able to walk and go to a store and see my name on a book and know that there are people out in the world buying it the way that you all listen to the podcast, that excites me. I'm just so close to that. We're less than a year away from this book coming out. We're less than a year. We're actually less than, we're less than a year away. So the fun, the excitement, everyone's always asking me, what you working on, what you doing? I'm like, this damn book, y'all. There's a bunch of other stuff I got going on. But me, I keep everything on the shh. Speaking of which, this weekend is also a good weekend for one of my favorite people in the world, Kelly Mirbot. Her birthday is this weekend, and she's having a great time. Her husband is you all know, Brian. He's a well-renowned chef. He's so awesome. He can cook his ass off. And he's making her birthday dinner, and I'm so standing across where she's at to where I'm at. I just want to smell that food. But she's having a good birthday, and it's always great. I have a lot of friends who have a lot of birthdays. I feel like I'm always going to somebody's birthday party. I'm blessed. I really am. I'm like, damn. Isn't there a birthday every other week? Whose birthday was it a couple of weeks ago? My brother. Then my homegirl had a birthday, had Fiddler. Yeah, a lot of people having birthdays. I don't know. I have a lot of Aquariuses. Aries are, she might be the only Aries. And then my younger brother's birthday's on 4/20, April 20th. Interesting enough, but he's going to be turning 12. So there's no 4/20 in his life. Only 4/20 he knows is April 20th, which is awesome. But I think about everyone's got a damn birthday. But yeah, I that's a good situation. I have friends, real friends, and I was reading something about this conversation about how men don't have friends, but I think that was more for straight, cishet men specifically, because I know gay men who got friends. Even if they friends not real, they got friends. Like we always got a gang. A lot of us, even when we're not quote unquote popular, we still have a gang of friends. Gays have friends. We have each other. We have our folks. Um, but yeah. I just so much. But moving into topics, I am super. I mean, well, first of all, before I get to what I'm super excited about, let me just talk about COVID. Cases are going up. There is a new strain. Uh, but I'm not hearing devastation. I've not heard devastation this go around. It's just that there is a new, um, variant, and people are starting to come down and get, get COVID and stuff like that. But it doesn't seem like it's. I don't know. I feel like everybody's over COVID, even though COVID is still happening. I'm not saying I'm over COVID. Let me be clear, because brothers still keep masks on. I mean, I ride Uber all the time, so I have to wear masks. But I just like, oh my goodness, like everyone's, it's happening again. But I'm not hearing. I mean, I knew something was going on when like President Barack Obama, the Queen recently got COVID not too long ago. A couple of other folks, but like it just seems like people are getting it. Like I think who couldn't do a show? Miley Cyrus got it. She could perform at the Grammy show this weekend. The Grammys, one of the pre-party shows. I was like, damn, people still getting it, and then they can't go out. Like, whoa. So I gotta be vigilant. I've been blessed so far not to get anything. I've been the one. I've been the survivor. A couple of my friends have not gotten COVID at all. I mean, if you got it and you survive, I mean, it don't matter really. I'm just saying. I just don't want to have the experience. I just don't want to if I don't have to, right? That's the point. The goal is not to. The goal is to try to avoid as much, because again, it can do different things to people's bodies. And, but what I'm hearing is that there's now test and treat sites that are happening around. So people who are getting tested are immediately getting treatment. I think that's the thing that's starting to happen. There are people who are just in general just saying that because they're boosted, they're having really mild symptoms. I think because of the fact that there's not people, even though it's spreading, right? And the variant is very contagious. I think what's happening is that because so many people are getting boosted and people are getting vaccinated, it's really getting harder for people to really get the serious consequences from COVID, like as if it was 2 years ago. And so I think that's happening. But I also think there's almost a mentality of, if I get it, I get it, so what? And it's like, so you don't want to get it. You don't want to roll the dice. Still protect yourself. Still just do what you got to do. Because again, there's still people that are immunocompromised. So like, I always tell people that, and I told my students, and some of my students at Cheney, we was having a debate about vaccinations and whatnot. And I had to tell them that you have to understand that, there are people around you whose bodies and immune systems will act different to COVID. Like they might be compromised, right? So their immune systems are very different from others. And so it's not so much about you, it's about others around you. And I don't want people to lose sight of that, because I have, friends and colleagues that are immunocompromised. And so they're like retreating in a different way to this. Like they're literally doing this very differently. Like they're like not going back indoors now. They're very much so staying away from a lot of the restaurants and places that are like filling them back in. And people are just really out here filling these places back to the brim. Like I've been going to restaurants and events, and I'm like, damn, y'all really out here packing this place like a bunch of sardines. I mean, it's like y'all are backpack. Like I was walking by and I was seeing one of my favorite CVS's, and somebody was on Spruce, and somebody was it 15th and Spruce, I think it was, yeah. And I saw a bunch of people at like, was it Howl at the Moon or something like that? And I was like, damn, y'all already out here? Okay. And it's interesting because now that I guess people are going back in full swing in their own way. I mean, people are not even checking vaccination cards. It's just, I mean, they don't have to, I guess, that restriction is lifted. And it's like, once it's, I just, what do I know? They keep electing men like Mayor James Kinney or Jim Kinney to office. So, when you're putting your money in that political, shitstorm, then that's why you get what you get. Because I'm just sitting here looking like, I understand that there's this public social pressure, but guess what? I would tell a person, I would rather you be pissed off at me alive than be happy and die. I mean, I think that's the reality, right? You got to have that kind of attitude. It's like, look, you're frustrated, but you're alive. You're frustrated, but you're safe. You're frustrated, but at the end of the day, you're still able to eat, to drink, and live your life. And at the end of the day, you know, you want to go back and act like this is no big deal. And then something happens to you, because we've seen this happen. A lot of the COVID deniers, the vaccine deniers, these people, you know, living out here free or whatever in their mind, and then they die. And then that's a family that doesn't have a father, a mother, a grandparent, you know, or a sibling. And then there's more trauma and grief around that. And so you're out here talking shit about vaccinations and public health, and then you die. And then look what happens to the rest of your family and the others who love you and care about you. So please shut up. Like, that's just really how I feel. Some people just talk all this. I'm just like, you're not going to convince anybody when you're dealing in a public health crisis. Like, we know who the weakest link is. I think all of these crises that we've seen, whether it's the slap or whatever, it's a crisis. But like, you know, all of these issues, I think what they do is that they tell us less about the people in power and tell us more about how we react to that power. And it's shown me a whole lot that some of you all, I'm y'all not homies. Like, I can't rely on you to be there. To hold it down. And that's why I sometimes do retreat to the group I have, because, you know, you just see some things. These incidents show a lot about people. It tells you a lot about how people feel about, you know, it just tells you a lot. And you wonder, you start to begin to realize why progress is not being achieved, because people like to be cordial. And I think we have to understand, do not confuse people being cordial for being supportive. I'm going to say that again, because that seems like it's real. Do not confuse people being cordial as being supportive. A person will smile, wave, say good morning. That does not mean that person is going to ride for you. That doesn't mean that person means well for you. That means this person just is practicing simple, basic manners. Okay? I think sometimes we've gotten so used to people just being cold and cruel and so mean that we think that those are the only people in the world that exist that does not stay in opposition to us. Oh, baby. Let me explain something. I have been in spaces where there are people that will say hi to me and wave and do all of that, and then they will be in a room and actively plot to my demise, you know, plot to shut me out of something, or to not include me somewhere, or, you know, that's what I've seen. And I know a lot of women know what that looks like. I know a lot of queer people know what that look like, and definitely Black and brown folks, we know. But sometimes within our own communities and circles, we do it to each other, which is, again, shows you how a lot of internalized sexism, misogyny, and racism play out. But it's just to say that everybody thinks that people being cordial means more than what it is. Listen, there are people I don't like, and I'm going to always, because I'm a Southern gentleman, I'm going to always say, how you doing, good morning, keep it moving. I feel like not saying something gives people more power, more weight to internalize something, unless you want that smoke. Now, there's some people where I don't have to say anything to you, and I will not dignify you, because I don't have that level of respect for you at the umpteenth. And I want you to know it, and it's real, and I don't play with you. But there's some people where it's like, I may not care for them all the way, but they don't take up that much energy out of me, because it hasn't been anything that deep. And so some people got to discern that, right? Like, everybody doesn't deserve a cold back shoulder and a fuck you and all that energy, because some people, it don't be that deep. And you're talking to somebody that's really known, they get a lot of people talking shit. So there's some people I say, I'm just like, hi, how you doing? Okay. And I keep it moving. And there's some people where I'm like, yeah. People know we don't deal with each other. I definitely can't deal with you. You know, you're a rapist, you're a racist, you're a bigot. And I don't got to dignify a bigot or racist. I don't need to slap a racist up. Well, but what I will say is that I just don't have to give that level of cordialness to a racist or rapist or anybody of those problematic areas, right? I don't need to give them that much of my, you know, support, quote unquote. So I think that matters. But I say all this to say, long story short, bringing it to COVID, everything else, wear a mask, give people social distancing, and, you know, at the end of the day, don't read into people's cordialness. The word is cordial. Don't. Because at the end of the day, the same people that will say hi to you and good morning to you will be the same people that's plotting to sharpen a knife to stab you in the back by lunchtime. So cordialness is all it's going to be. And that's, you know, the normalcy of it all. So COVID cases are happening. Get boosted if you haven't. I'm waiting to see if I could get double boosted. I'm not over 50, so I can't get double boosted. But I'm making sure people around me, like everybody, just checking with people. A lot of my friends who can get boosted, they have gotten double boosted. I'm waiting to get double boosted. I would love to if I can. When the opportunity comes, your boy is getting that second jab of Moderna. I've been keeping the Moderna the whole way. I've not mixed and matched. I've been keeping it consistent, just personally. I just like to see Moderna on my card. But you can mix and match, but I try to stay consistent. But when the opportunity comes to me to get double boosted, I will. For me, it's just been just doing what I gotta do to stay alive and stay healthy and stay happy and be able to keep the energy going for the most part. Just saying. Speaking of things that I'm just saying, but also something that just got me is Conor Lamb. Okay, and again, there was a lot going on during this week. Okay, a lot of this. I don't have to hear about the slap for another week, another month, or whatever. Like, honestly, there's a reason why. Well, trust me, I know y'all waiting for that topic like I am, but there's a lot of other things that's been going on. And sometimes people forget that the world is round and we're still rotating and things are happening and we need to be staying very aware of what the hell's been happening in the world. So, okay, this PA race. The poll numbers came out last week that Fetterman is like up double digits ahead of the person next to him, which is Conor Lamb. Fetterman has around 33% of the vote, 30% of the vote. Fetterman has 10%, and this is polling. So when I say the vote, I mean based on poll numbers. Malcolm Kenyatta has about 7%, and then the other candidate who doesn't have a shot at winning at all, she has around 4%, and there's 37% undecided. But looking at this data, okay, for all the endorsements, all of the money that Conor Lamb has been, I guess, getting off of some of these endorsements from the establishment, he has not been able to crack past 10%. It looks bad. And what even looks worse is that, so Conor Lamb and Fetterman are in the same ballpark of money. They both have millions of dollars in their campaign at this point. We're talking millions. Malcolm don't even have over $500,000. It's not like he doesn't even have any real serious cash on hand. How is it that him and Conor are divided by less than 3% of the vote, and him and then Fetterman and Conor are divided by 20%? So it's just baffling to me. Because for all of the energy towards Conor Lamb's campaign compared to Fetterman, he should be going further than Malcolm. It really shouldn't be Malcolm and Fetterman. I mean, not Fetterman. It should be Conor. Conor Lamb should be going light years ahead of Malcolm. Fetterman currently has 4 times as many votes. As many percentage points than Malcolm, right? So that's a clear shooter. But Conor Lamb has, the gag is that if Conor Lamb doubles, the amount of support he has right now, he will still be down 50%. He'll still be down a third of what Fetterman has. He still will be a third down than what Fetterman has. If he doubles his numbers, he'll still be a third down. That tells you a lot. That tells you how much nothing is moved. All of the stuff that's being said, all of the money, all of the endorsements. And so there's been speculation, Politico did a story saying that Conor Lamb's team even did some research and found that he was definitely low and that they were going to consider allegedly going negative. So everybody was like, ooh, this is going to get nasty. But they're testing all kind of rhetoric, saying that he's with he's a communist or a social. I think it was a socialist. He's a socialist and he's against the cops and he's about defund. And I'm just this is so fucking ugly. This is disgusting. This is fucking disgusting. And what it tells me about Conor Lamb is that Conor Lamb does not give a fuck about defund the police, which, okay, fine, right? But you don't have a real criminal justice background. You don't even understand the issue around policing. You don't care about the issues around policing and racial justice. Like that's not like anybody who's going to go in that direction, right? You're taking GOP talking points and rhetoric to play like that. The fact that you're going to, attack him as a socialist, you're going to frame him as a socialist, like you are really also giving a real big slap to progressives that you would need to win this race, because that's why you don't have a margin. Let's keep it 100. The reason why Malcolm has been edging towards Conor Lamb is because of the fact that there are some progressives that I know that are actually debating between Fetterman and Malcolm. Like in Philadelphia right now, it's interesting because I'm hearing, there is a senior group of people, older, more moderate voters that are going Conor Lamb. So there's no denial there in Philadelphia that there is a sect. And some of those sects is very diverse. The black clergy endorsed Conor Lamb, which is no surprise. Because when I looked at everybody else they, nominated or endorsed, none of them were gay. None of them, only 4 of them were first-time candidates. They supported a lot of Democratic establishment-backed incumbents. They didn't support that many new candidates. They did not support any young candidates for the most part, except for one I recognized. They didn't support any LGBTQIA candidates, which is also, they supported the very much so. They did not really go too progressive, but that was to be expected. And it's just kind of disappointing because it just shows you, that a lot of things are still not needs work in the black church. There's still, they are an indicator politically. Let me be clear. They are a political indicator. They do have sway and influence, but at the same time, just as much as I would like to see the Democratic Party, to see politics evolve, I would like to see the black church evolve. There are some black gay candidates in this race that I definitely think should have had some support and endorsements. I'm not necessarily talking about Malcolm Kenyatta. I'm just saying that there's other candidates who was running in certain races. And I just feel like for them to just keep, pushing and go with the status quo is a little disappointing. A lot of disappointing, actually. It was very disappointing. But that to be said, there is interesting coalitions. So there are progressive and more liberal, right, voters who are like having the conversation of Fetterman or Malcolm. And in Philadelphia, there's a mixed group. There is a strong Fetterman contingency amongst them, but there also is amongst for Malcolm. The thing is, though, is across the state, it's pretty much Fetterman. I mean, across the state, it seems like those who are progressives outside of like maybe Philadelphia and a couple of surrounding counties, they're not having a conversation about Malcolm or Fetterman. They're just going Fetterman. Because you got to explain this damn double digit, gap. And nobody wants to talk about that. Like everybody wants to skip over that detail. And so, no, we can't. I'm sorry. It's too big. The gap is too fucking big. It's too big. I'm sorry. I cannot deny the gap. You are literally what? A month and a half away from the elections. Look, anything can happen. I mean, look, we saw what happened in 2016 with Hillary. Okay. But it looks like that gap is just not looking like it's shortening fast enough. Because the level of work and energy that Conor has to do, it's not Conor's race alone. Conor is in a 4-candidate race. Let's just be real, 3-person race. As long Malcolm's momentum and he's not letting go. He's not letting go. So any opportunity for Conor really to make a stance, a boost, Malcolm is there to tamper that down because there is also a rise in interest for Malcolm. And I think there's going to be a little bit more interest. I would be curious to say that if we look at Philadelphia and Conor comes in 3rd in Philadelphia, that is going to be the biggest nightmare for the Democratic establishment in Philadelphia. That they didn't endorse their own, and their own will probably come in number 2 and Fetterman come in number 1. That is a nightmare. That will be an ultimate nightmare if that happens in Philadelphia. But I would even say statewide. What if Malcolm tramples Conor Lamb and comes in 2nd place? Because at this point, it could happen. I mean, when you look at the margin, okay, Conor has 10%, Malcolm has 7 point something. That is fucking close. And so it's almost like the party is going to look a whole lot. Like, listen, we get it. The Democratic establishment does not want to back Fetterman. And that's probably what's making Fetterman look even better right now to voters across Pennsylvania. However, when you're looking at this situation between Malcolm and Conor Lamb, it's like, Because Malcolm has not dropped out. I just knew Malcolm was going to drop out a couple of months ago. I was like, oh, he's probably going to drop out. Oh, no. Hell no. He is playing his role. He's playing his role. And I'm not even going to call him a spoiler candidate. But he's like, I'm going to make y'all pay. He's making the Democratic Party pay. I can't get mad at him. I don't agree with a lot of his politics. And, he gets a little annoying. But I will say that I am thoroughly enjoying the fact that he's not left the race. Because like I said, it is all fun in love and war. It is all fun in politics. Like at the end of the day, I don't eat popcorn like that, but I will say I'm somewhere eating my pretzels and I'm just looking at this and I'm just like, okay, all right. I see it. I see what's happening here. He's up on that ass. Listen, Conor is too busy focused on Fetterman. You gotta look at Malcolm. Because to be honest, you have to get Malcolm's supporters to make that curve up. Everybody thought that Malcolm needed Conor's voters. I don't know where Malcolm is getting his voters from. I mean, he's got supporters. I guess there's a progressive base, but I feel like there is this interesting mid moderate liberal sector that is not sold on Conor. Because Conor should have been like right now, if I was a betting man, the poll should be having Fetterman at 30, whatever, but Conor should be at 20. Like that undecided at 37%, let's be clear, even if that was the case, that does not boost any of these other candidates. Because let's be honest, that 37% undecided voters, they're not going only one way towards either candidate. So let's say that 20% of those votes went to one candidate that's undecided. Even with those numbers, they still would not topple Fetterman. Because if Fetterman got the 7% and 20% went to Lamb, let's just say out of that 37% if we did math, Fetterman would still be up. Even if the majority of that undecided went to either of those candidates, you got Malcolm in it, so Malcolm's taking a piece of the pie. You got Lamb in it, so Lamb is taking a piece of the pie. And then Fetterman is probably going to take a piece of that undecided vote pie. It still would not allow them to get a boost that is ahead of Fetterman. It just doesn't work. He'll still be ahead. And so those numbers don't lie. And so I have to be in a position where everybody keeps talking about this and that and the third, and it's not fucking sticking. It's not sticking. I've been saying this for the whole time. Listen, for those people who've been following my podcast on this whole Senate race, I can't wait until May 17th is over with, because I can't wait for us to all get together and I have an I told you so moment. Because this shit, to me, it's not whether or not Fetterman's going to win. It's going to be how bad they're going to lose. To me, I want to see how bad they're going to lose. To me, the real shocker and fun and surprise would be if Malcolm comes in second in Philadelphia, or no, if he comes in first, or hell, if he comes in first or second in Philadelphia, or if he comes in second in the entire Senate race. That would be exciting to watch. And honestly, I ain't gonna hold you. It could happen. It could happen. If I was people supporting his campaign, trying to give money to him, I mean, if you got money to waste, because again, it's about, are you down with giving money to a person that's gonna lose, but are you down with giving person money to come higher? Because listen, if you're giving money to Conor Lamb right now, you technically giving it to a losing campaign. I know the race is far from over, but goddamn it, it's getting close. And I'm at the end of the day, every week, it ain't looking good. So let me tell you what Conor Lamb fucked up and had me fucked up on. So the day that it came out that he was down 30 points, they also announced that there was a debate at some college. I forget the name. It starts with an M. Some college that nobody's going to actually watch that debate. Let's just keep it 100. But there was a debate, and Fetterman is not going to be attending the debate. Now, from what I've heard from close sources, a lot of people felt like the debate, some people in, Fetterman's team and some supporters have said that they felt like that debate was set up in a way that made it, that is going to push Conor Lamb. Like there's a biasness with it. And so that was some concern. But the other issue too is that apparently he has other things to do that he feel like is more important. And I mean, to be honest with you, well, so what I will say that's interesting is that he has decided that he's not going to be at the debate. That's just his prerogative. He's not crazy about the debate. He's like, look, I'm he's got some other stuff to do apparently. So where do I want to go first? I just want to talk about debates in general. I just feel like with state races like this, like even in the mayoral race, right? Like nobody gives a fuck about these debates. I mean, the thing is, like Fetterman has done one debate already, and he is scheduled for 3 more debates. He has 2 more in April that he's going to be in person. He's agreed to, and then there's another one that's going to be in early May in Philadelphia. The thing about the other debate, this upcoming debate, apparently he never agreed to doing it to begin with. So this whole he was invited, he never accepted. He never was planning to because he felt like it was slanted, apparently. That there was like a slant going in favor of Conor. And sometimes these debates, these moderators, and the people that's involved in, like when I looked at who was involved in it, there is a slant there to a certain extent. So he felt like he didn't have a fair advantage. Listen, it's one thing if you bring people that go different ways. Like I don't plan to moderate any of these debates because I know I've been critical of all the candidates in all right, and I've also been critical of certain more than others. So I get why I would never be moderating these debates, but other people should know that and not feel like they're making it appear to be one way. So it's interesting. All I'm saying is that you really shouldn't be hosting a debate if you got people from certain groups or organizations already made endorsements. I mean, I haven't made any endorsements, let me be clear. But I think that if you are someone from an institution that has made an endorsement for a candidate, it's really hard for you to participate in that damn panel. You have to really keep that shit neutral. They didn't really, I feel like the people that organized this debate just really did not vet it properly. That's my opinion. I ain't gonna name names, but it's just people should have been very mindful about how they show up in those debates and how they show up being on panels and things. Just saying. But all I have to say, what's interesting is that like the Carnegie Mellon debate, I watched it. It was boring. Like I watched it when they streamed it. Nobody talked about the debate. Like nobody really cared. It was very boring. Everybody kind of stayed in their own, their own corners. There was nothing really extremely profound. I mean, Malcolm really shows up well on debates because he's really, he knows how to speak. He's a natural public speaker. Conor Lamb is very boring. And Fetterman's boring. I mean, Fetterman is just that's not their thing. The other woman was actually more entertaining. She was actually lively in the debates. But I guess she's just happy to be there. But like her and Malcolm were the ones who had the most, I feel like, energy and spice. The rest of them just kind of just there. So it's kind of like a waste. I mean, one would argue that to a certain extent, like debates, if you do so many of them, it's almost like, well, what's the point? Because debates on a local level like this does not actually do anything to change the voting outcomes, in my opinion. Because most of the time, the people that are going already know who they're supporting. They're small rooms. They're closed off. A lot of people don't actually watch televised debates. I think about Mayor Kenney when he had his debate in 2019. And, somebody went a little viral, over here for facial expressions. While I was in the audience, I already knew where my head was at that audience. Everybody in the audience knew who he was supporting. And honestly, the debate didn't even get like that much crazy traction. At the end of the day, Kenney still won. Even though, arguably, if you watch the debate, Kenney wasn't that good. He wasn't. He was not that good. But like, that's not how votes get won. Debates don't just make you wake up and go, oh, my mind has changed. We're past the JFK, Nixon era. We're past the political era when televised debates decided outcomes. I mean, think about it. Hillary and Trump, you think those debates really made people say, you know what, I'm going to support Trump? No, it's political circus. Like, people have to buy votes. People buy votes. People have world leaders and party loyalties. People vote based on their own personal biases of gender, race, and sex. Like, those are the things that really determine outcomes of races. It has nothing to do about debates. People know when they go to the polls. If anybody who's talking shit about Fetterman not going to debate is undecided, please raise your hand. No. And that's the intellectual dishonesty of it. No. Nobody is right now at this point. Those who are following the election, because let's be honest, a lot of people are not fucking following this race. A lot of people really don't know what the hell's going on. I mean, the people know what they see in the commercials. And the people that are gun-ho about it didn't already made up their mind that the gun-ho-ness is going towards Fetterman based on those who have participated in the polls. It's not looking good for the other two candidates. It's just not. And so the antics of, like Malcolm's been saying, this candidate protection program. It's like, really? I find it hilarious. I just think it's silly. But it's like, nobody is, and the crazy part is that social media, I have to tell people, like, I'm a journalist in real life. Yes, I'm on Twitter. Yes, I'm on Instagram. Yes, I have fun. but I'm a journalist in real life. I'm a person who actually is in Pennsylvania. I'm a person that's actually in Philly. I'm actually talking to world leaders, committee people, and those around. And to be 100 with you, all this shit is messy. Like, I'll give you an example. There's a ward I know near my area in West Philly. There's some committee people I spoke to that said there was a candidates like event and they were interviewing them. Well, the candidates are no longer sending, the candidates themselves are not really going into some of these wards. They're trying to get certain endorsements. They want to get endorsements from the ward. They want to get it. So they're talking to committee people and they're going to certain wards and stuff. And ever since Conor Lamb got the Democratic Party's endorsement for the city committee, a lot of these candidates have not been going to these other forums. And so people are like, why is so-and-so not here? Well, Conor Lamb's not there, child, because he got the city's endorsement. So he didn't go to your ward, which is going to, bite him in the ass because I feel like he's got to really earn Philadelphia's support. Like, the party endorsing him does not mean he really has Philadelphia on lock, because what I'm seeing is that there's a lot of ward leaders and committee people that are actually not, that's really annoyed with the fact that Conor hasn't came to their ward and spoke at forums because they want to make their own endorsements. But at the same time, now other candidates are not going, or they're sending surrogates. So Malcolm has, in some situations, sent his campaign manager. Fetterman has sent his own surrogates to go to these forums. And so a lot of these other, ward leaders and committee people are annoyed now because they want to actually meet the candidates. Well, guess what? When the city decided to put the cart before the horse and endorse somebody before the wards and the committee people actually got a chance to engage with them across the city, that automatically killed any, opportunity for them. Because they're like, why would I waste my time going into wards under a party that's already endorsed? Like, my time is limited. Campaign people got to fundraise. Fetterman is out here fundraising. He out here trying to stack his war chest stuff. These candidates, Conor got to step his money up. Malcolm needs to spend more time fundraising, in my opinion, to keep up staying the war than to be out here trying to get all this other, these random ass endorsements. I mean, it's a mixed bag. And I feel bad for a lot of these committee people and ward leaders because it looked like the power that they could have had to make an indent in the election has been taken from them. Because the candidates already feel like it's a rigged deal. And I don't think it's rigged. I just want to say that I feel like it looks like the gig is up. So if everybody thinks the gig is up, who's actually going to show up and do what needs to be done? So as far as debates go, I just personally think that, candidates should be engaging with each other. Fetterman not going to this debate doesn't mean it's the end of the world. It's just that at the end of the day, y'all like, where is Fetterman? Fetterman's out here in these streets fundraising, clearly. Something that the rest of them should be doing if they want to actually have a chance to win. Like, when you're the front runner of a race, you kind of don't want to be in the media attention. It's a strategy that a lot of people have used. When you have a big lead, local candidates that have big leads actually try to avoid any situation where they're giving more publicity and attention to their challengers. It's a strategy. You don't have to like it. As a journalist, it's annoying because as a journalist, I would like to cover all three of them getting into it, but I understand political strategy because I have been in politics. Like, I've worked in City Hall. I've followed campaign trails. My husband worked in politics and worked on campaigns. So I've seen all of these tactics employed, y'all. So, like, while we, the individuals, right, as a journalist, I just want to, write a story. But as some of these other people on the internet go off, it's like you guys are all mad, but you're not really mad. You're fake outrage. Half of y'all, most of y'all don't even live in Pennsylvania, and most of y'all can't even vote in the damn city. You all are just literally just gun-ho surrogates that's saying the craziest shit to get a retweet and like on Twitter. It's cute, but it's not going to win an election. And somebody should have told someone should have told Conor Lamb this, because like I said, Conor Lamb went negative this week. Conor Lamb shared a meme, basically of the incident involving Fetterman, and the incident with the black man who was unarmed, where allegedly they said Fetterman had, confronted him with a gun. And this happened in 2013. So we talked about this in previous episodes. But Conor Lamb has finally bitten the apple from his extreme supporters to go negative in this way. And so Conor basically said something along the lines of the reason why, Fetterman doesn't want to do the debates on this upcoming debate is because he wants to avoid addressing this incident and voters need to know and yada, yada, yada. And I'm just sitting here like, what the fuck? Like, seriously, I was like, what the fuck? And then he furthers on and says, this is going to come up, and GOP are going to use this to go against him, in November. And I'm just like, oh, so the GOP Republicans are going to use, so you just say, I might as well act like a Republican Even though I vote closely to a Republican, but that's another story for another day. I guess, your mindset is like, I'm going to use it before them or like make this even a bigger deal so that I can get ahead of this. And so he's used this to say that this is going to make Fetterman lose in November, so support me because I've won races. That logical map is full of shit. First of all, let's just keep it 100. Republicans, let's say Dr. Oz is the presumptive nominee for the Republican Party. I'm just trying to figure out how the very bigoted, extremist Republican voters who already don't like progressives or like yada, 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 is going to all of a sudden think that this incident with Fetterman is what they're going to use to do what? Like, who are they swaying with that information? Like, that is more, the only people that's been outwardly out. Like, the crazy part is that even Fetterman supporters, many of them who might be middle of the road, voters or Democrats or folks that are not extremely progressive or just moderate in their own way, they have not even been gun-ho, no pun intended, about going after Fetterman or confronting Fetterman about this incident or making a big deal of it. And you know why? Because this issue has been brought up throughout his political career at different points, and yet it's been magnified here because of the U.S. Senate race. But the reality is that it just is not stuck. And I've tried to say this, and people have gotten mad at me, but I have told people that this is a little bit more complicated than what they're trying to make. Because the supporters for Conor Lamb, those who don't live in Philadelphia and don't live in Pennsylvania, okay, who can't even vote, they will never speak to the nuance of the situation at hand. Like the fact that, again, this person, where is this person at currently? They're incarcerated. But this person has said that they do not think this incident should, end Fetterman's career. He's even supported Fetterman in running. Like he said, go Fetterman. And so it's almost like, that's one angle of it. But the other angle of it is that there's a dispute in the story. There's discrepancies with the story. There's issues with this individual's credibility, given other things this person has done, that there's people that don't believe everything that this individual has said, given some of the things he's done since, and even the things that he denies doing that is blatant that he did, right? So like, I believe women victims when they say that they've been done wrong by someone, and he has been very adamant on denying the fact that he held a woman at knife point and basically kidnapped her, and that's why he's incarcerated. And he said that he's in jail for a crime he didn't commit. Now, that's a lie. And so it's almost like if you are to believe this guy's full story with Fetterman, you have to acknowledge that this person has a track record of lying. So for me, it's one of those situations where I have to decide, who do I believe? And I just feel like the case against Fetterman in this regard is just really hard, right, to really fathom. Because again, me looking at the case, looking at what's happened in the aftermath, what this man is saying now about the situation, it just seems to be contradictory in some ways. There is an incident that happened. I think Fetterman has spoken on it previously. I've read the Atlantic piece. I think this desire of people to ask him to talk about it now isn't coming from really this large base of general voters. It's just become political warfare. Like, it reminds me of like with Hillary, where there were certain things that the Republicans were trying to use against her to get her to speak on conspiracy theories around Bill Clinton and what it was, Watergate and all this other stuff. That was like, what? It kind of had that energy, like, oh, well, what happened here? What happened with this in 91? And when you did this in the crime bill? I mean, and to be clear, there were activists, right, that did have specific questions for Hillary that were legitimate, right? But it was coming more organically and authentically. In this situation, I have not seen any voters that just have ran on this because it's so long ago. And it's also something that clearly is more complicated than what has been said. Like, if you really actually read about what happened, that incident, what's happened since, like, it's just really hard for anybody to just sum it up like, he pursued a black man with a gun. Well, he didn't know the man was black, according to him. He did not know that man was black. So the only way that you can go there is to believe that he thought the person was black. But the reality is that he had called the police when he heard gunshots, right? So what prompted him is that he called the police and notified them that there was someone. In his description, he did not say there was a, when he described him, he didn't say there's a black man or whatever. So it wasn't like he already came in with that mindset. I argue and believe that anybody that was running that would have been white, black, Latino, Asian, whatever, he would have pursued them the same way because of the fact that he really thought that there was a shooting incident. Now, of course, they say he broke the law in the fact that by him having a gun on him and all that, and that's a real situation. And, at the end of the day, he needs to speak on that, right? But at the same time, you got to get to a point where you're like, what do you believe? And also, what do you think all of this is supposed to imply? Because, see, I'm a short, no chaser person. I had to ask the question because, I went up to Conor Lamb and I asked him on Twitter. I directly added him and I asked him, I said, listen, this right here, what you doing? Because if you're trying to make a conversation about race in this election, if you're really trying to go that route, let's talk about it. Let's actually talk about it. Like, let's not tiptoe around this. Because one is intellectually dishonest. He says the reason why Fetterman's not coming to debate is because he wanted to discuss this incident. And he put this meme. First of all, that was cheap. That's cheap to use a meme. That's childish. Second of all, you want to score political points on social media talking about an incident that you were, I guess, assuming is traumatic to a black person. So let's say you believed everything that happened. That issue is still a traumatic incident, right? You're going to re-invoke it and re-inject it in a meme to share. That's very tacky. That's a very low way to do this. Like, you're using it as political material. You're like giving the GOP, you're giving the conservatives, right, ammunition. Congratulations on playing your fucking self. But okay, let's say that you really believe this. First of all, if you thought that this was true, why didn't you bring it up at the Carnegie Mellon debate last month? Like, when y'all were all on the floor, like when that debate that no one really watched and talked about, the one that everybody just was like, ooh, they're gonna be in the same room, and nothing happened. No one had that smoke at the debate. That debate was like 3 hours, 4 hours long, and no one had that smoke. Like, nobody was really coming with the jabs. None of it was a big ass deal. It was just like everybody was talking, answering their questions, grandstanding, being politicians, and then that was it. You didn't bring it up then at all. So now that you're down 30 points, the day that you're down 30 points publicly, you're down 20 points, you're now complaining, right? You're now on social media pulling these stunts. How politically convenient. You're politicizing an incident that you claim is something of public concern, and you're handling it with the least amount of dignity, the least amount of sensitivity whatsoever. But we're supposed to believe this is a serious situation. Because I don't know anybody who would be inferring something about someone at this magnitude and treating it like it should be a meme to go viral and get retweets versus really pouring your heart. You know why? Because he didn't really give a fuck. Conor Lamb does not care about that young man. That black man, he does not care. He doesn't care. He doesn't even have the maturity to unpack to the public what really happened and really flesh it out and make it make sense to a supporter. So all you've done is you've tried to frame a man in a way that isn't really intellectually honest about the situation at hand, just to score political points and to alienate the base. Congratulations, you played yourself. And so my question to to Conor Lamb on Twitter was, and I added him, was like, what are you trying to say about Fetterman? Are you trying to imply he's racist? Say that. You know what I'm saying? Are you trying to imply he's racist? Because let's be clear, out of everybody in this situation, nobody's going for the juggler and calling him a racist. And I'm talking about the candidates. Because I remember when Trump was running, oh yeah, Hillary went there. Hillary said, Trump has said racist, sexist, like she went there. Y'all not going there with Fetterman because you don't believe Fetterman's a racist. So then what are you trying to do? What am I supposed to do with this information? Because you're trying to imply things. And I'm not dumb, right? I don't think black voters are dumb. Either you're going to go there and take a hard stance and say that, or just sit up and just be messy. And so I think Conor would rather be messy and let the ambiguity and the implication speak for itself rather than to take a position on it. Well, if you're an elected official, you're expected to take a position. If you're going to be a candidate running in a race, what is the position? Malcolm's made a position. Malcolm is considered vigilantism, but he will not call him a racist. You know why he won't call him a racist? Because they used to be pals and homies in Harrisburg, taking pictures, tweeting at each other, sending each other hearts and joking. Yeah, you're doing that with a racist? Oh, okay. Okay, Malcolm. You know who the real racists are. They're on the other aisle. They're on the other side. You're going to convince us that the front runner in this Senate race, who's a Democrat that's a progressive, the same one that you're claiming is supporting defund the police and Black Lives Matter is also the same guy that's a racist. Interesting. Okay. The one that's actually aligning himself with racial justice issues that y'all think are too radical is also the same person that y'all trying to, claim is some racist or trying to imply. See, you know, that's the dirtiness. And like a white man like Conor Lamb, who's a moderate, who literally has not voted and supported the legalized cannabis, who's also had voted 70% alongside what Trump and Republicans have voted on, who's pretty much a moderate. Many people consider him a little Joe Manchin in Christian cinema. I mean, I'm not going down that pipe, but I'm just telling you what some of the people who are concerned about his platforms are saying. You know, this doesn't make you look any better. I don't walk away learning anything new about you. So, okay, you think he did this and it should be discussed. Got it. Okay, now what? What does it say about your race? What does it say about who you are? What are your values? Because the only thing he keeps saying is he can win in November. So that's all this is about, is winning, right? Not about having any dignity or self-respect for yourself. Not about having any actual decorum and showing that you're better than your opponents. You're actually just mudslinging at this point. And you have not said anything about your stances on the issue. Like, what do you really believe? Oh, it's just that you just want to throw it out there as a cheap shot because he's not coming to the debate to debate you amongst your biased ass peers that's going to already support and endorse you. Interesting. Like, I just feel like these are the things that annoy me as a journalist, because a lot of times people from both sides of these issues and the candidates will tell you some stuff. Like, I'm not going to name names because I'm not trying to get too much in it, but I would say there's some of those people that came to me like, psst, from some of his camps, some of his supporters, look what Fetterman's a racist. Da-da. I said, did Conor say that? Can I get Conor on the record to say that? Well, Conor's not going to go that far. Oh, so he's not going to go that far. Oh, so that you don't think it's all of that. Okay. Got it. Y'all just, was out here starting shit on Twitter. Oh, okay. Y'all just wanted to get some buzz. Well, since we're on the topic of race, does Conor Lamb support Black Lives Matter? Does he know what Black Lives Matter means? Does he have a racial justice plan? Like, what is his thoughts about this individual? Does he know that this individual in question said go Fetterman, that he actually supports Fetterman even though he's behind bars? Does he know any of the other backtail story? Does he know who he's defending? Does he know that this man has actually lied about incidents involving himself? That he basically has a reported track record of lying. Like, he literally lied about his incident where he, again, kept the woman at knife point. He lies. This guy isn't necessarily the most honest dude either. Like I said, I just always got to look at the source. Was this incident complicated? Was this incident messy? Yes. Will Fetterman talk about it? I hope he do. But I don't think, in my opinion, that the situation, because again, according to the individual who was confronted by Fetterman with his gun, allegedly, he himself has said that he doesn't think this one incident should define him and his family. He talked about how Fetterman's family was so kind and good people, and that, he should be senator. He should, this shouldn't stop him. He's done a lot of good and blah, blah, blah. Oh, okay. He still holds on to what he said about the incident, but he's been able to give this man an extension of grace and everything. And I think it's so funny because moderate Democrats have given a lot of people grace and understanding over the years. I don't know, like Joe Biden and his previous racist comments and things he's said over the years, but somehow that grace was given to him. And Myra's told us all that people are not perfect, right? When Bernie Sanders was coming for Hillary about some of her past indiscretions, Myra said people are not perfect. We don't need to create a purity test. Interesting. So funny how some of the Conor Lamb supporters are like, BLM should be upset. BLM should be upset. And it's like, but you all don't even support BLM's platforms. Why are you talking about BLM when you all literally are not for defund the police, and that's one of their biggest, campaigns? You don't support abolitionist ideas. Why interject BLM? You don't even know anything about them. Like, you sound stupid. You don't even know what the organization stands for, and you're like expecting them to jump in a situation involving Fetterman. So intellectually dishonest. Because a lot of Fetterman's platform addresses or understands the nuance of racial justice or criminal justice in different ways that Lamb's platform doesn't. And so that's why it has not been sticking. Because it's a cheap talking point. And it's very problematic because it's very insensitive about a situation that does sound that traumatic, that does sound concerning. But the way this is being handled right now by this desperate ass candidate is just so tacky. I mean, Malcolm has talked about it, but he knows as a black man that, we got to think about how we use that R word, right? Because we can't be out here just calling everybody racist, but at the same time, we got to think about the nuance here, and I think that's what's troubling for me. So we'll see what happens, but it's been interesting to follow the hypocrisy, though. Speaking of hypocrisy, Sherelle Parker's plan has come out, and guess what? No one really gave a fuck. I'm just being real. Like, did not get the buzz. Her team really, really thought this was going to be a big deal. It was going to make a big splash. Because pretty much she was saying that she was going to, increase police funding and some public safety. And it's pretty much obvious at this point she's running for mayor. But, my goodness, if this is your attempt to try to get the FOP endorsement, I guess this is going to get you that. But I don't think you're going to lose a lot more voters than you think you're going to get by doing so. And it's just disappointing because what's come out and what Kenny has come out and said about the budget is that, first of all, as of right now, so her plan is that she wants to increase, she wants to put 300 officers, new officers on the streets. She's calling them community officers. They're guardians and not warriors. And she's, saying that there's going to be a new different energy on how they engage and yada, yada, yada. Well, she's also asking for a bunch of other things that I don't really think needs to be in a police budgeting, spending, whatever. But whatever. Her plan is just, again, trash. But here's the thing. Crazy part is that right now in Philadelphia, there is actually a shortage of police. There's like a big gap of the number of police that are actually on the force right now. They are having a hard time recruiting. And the argument that Kenny has made, which Sherelle Parker is considered a red herring, is that there was a policy, a proposal passed in 2020 that I guess they considered it police reform, but just basically said that police officers that do not live in the city of Philadelphia are not going to be considered. So you must be a resident of Philadelphia, that's the priority. So I'm sitting here listening to this and I'm like, to be honest, police from Philadelphia or police from outside of Philadelphia are still the same police. In my opinion, I don't think they're any special, any different. I think police is police. But, again, police reform doesn't make any sense. So they made this policy, and so Kenny is saying that that's why it's been hard to recruit people. Well, because again, this is why police reform is shit. Sherelle said that there's actually a loophole, spoke to a loophole of saying that, that's a red herring for the city. Like, if there is people that are not qualified, then other outside cops can be brought into the conversation. Bingo! That's why police reform is trash, because every time somebody thinks they're going to do something that's going to end it, there's always a loophole that can oversee it. So basically, Sherelle Parker in real time admitted, council member Sherelle Parker, admitted in real time that there's a loophole. Even in their police reform, there's loopholes and ways to get around the things that they think is going to make a big difference. Got her. So the crazy part is that since this has come out, there's not been much talk about it, and I think partially because the slap has really taken a lot of the energy, it slapped the energy out of people. Maybe Conor Lamb's stunt didn't really catch on traction because, again, we saw what happened. The thing about it, though, is that so much of this conversation and so much that's happened has left more questions than answers. There's now a lot of elected officials coming out not really a fan of this proposal that she has. I mean, even, Mayor Kenny's kind of looking at some of the stuff, like some of this is just very vague. A lot of it is window dressing of an issue. It's more so, a Band-Aid on an issue that's more intense than what it is, in my opinion. That's just how I see it, right? Just seems like there's a lot of inconsistency there, and I just think it's a bunch of money. I've heard now that the police budget might be around $758 million. Y'all don't have enough officers, but y'all got enough money. Y'all got all this gap, and y'all want to add more officers as if that's going to solve the issue. But I digress. This bill is not going to happen. This proposal, whatever, is going to be dismantled by the time we get to the budget, and it's been a whole shit show. All right, moving on. So to Will Smith. A lot has been happening, and I've been waiting to talk a little bit about this, y'all. But let me just say this about Will Smith. A lot of people have made a big deal about this slap, and I know there's a lot of people that have mixed feelings and all this, that, and the third. But what's crazy to me is that it's not so much, like, this situation has become almost like Nipplegate. It reminds me of Janet Jackson's 2004 incident with Justin Timberlake and her at the Super Bowl, right? And, there's just been a lot of just contradictions and hypocrisy. Christy Allen, I got into it on Twitter, and I just could not take her. But, Christy Allen, who is a devout Trump supporter, was just talking about how, this violence is not acceptable in Hollywood and she doesn't condone it. I'm sorry, you literally supported Donald Trump for president, okay? You literally supported him and stood by supporting this man. I've watched a lot of documentaries. Like, I love, okay, so for fans of like people who like really good documentaries, on YouTube, there is a YouTube channel for a section called, a series called Frontline. And Frontline is on PBS. And so people who watch Frontline on PBS, for those who still watch TV, these documentaries are really well edited, really well done. I mean, there's some incredible journalists that's telling the stories, and they literally break down all of these major political moments, Supreme Court stuff. They talk about all of that. So I love Frontline. And so the YouTube channel is called Frontline, and they have like all these good documentaries that are really well done, edited, photographed. I mean, it's incredible, and it's really, it's very insightful, very, very informational. Love it. Watch it a lot, right? So I was watching one about the January 6th insurrection, and they were just getting into the white supremacists and bigots about how they got there, and they met people who was at previous attacks, and how there's a big, strong group of military, like former military individuals who served in the military, how there's a correlation between some of these people who served in the armed forces and then later turn out to be, real gunslinging vigilantes that are out here trying to fuck up democracy. Like, they are literally covering finding these people in real time. I mean, rolling up to them and being like, hey, were you at the January 6th insurrection? And it's like, they're like all shook and shit. Like, it's really good. But anyway, I say all to say that they were just showing how Trump has incited violence throughout his political career. And I'm saying to myself, all of a sudden, violence isn't the answer. Y'all have all this stuff to say about what black people should be doing and yada, yada, yada. So here's what my theory has been since all this has went down and all the hypocrisy in between. I just feel like that white people are only invested in stopping violence that they can't control themselves. They're against violence that isn't state-sanctioned violence. Because state-sanctioned violence has been going on forever, and no one has given that much energy to it. I mean, these are the same people that when a police has killed an unarmed black person, they don't say violence isn't the answer. They say they find 1,000 reasons to try to justify it, even though there's no reason to justify death, right? They don't say violence isn't the answer to policing. They never say that when we see the George Floyd. There's people that will argue down Breonna Taylor. There's people that will try to find, I don't know, what's that thing called the devil's advocate? They'll play devil's advocate all day on Black Lives, but the moment we play devil's advocate on what happened with Will Smith, we're automatically condoning violence and are bad people. This is at an interesting double standard. And so what that tells me is that white people, anytime there's an opportunity for them to double down and go 10 times down on condemning a black person, they're going to pile on the black person because there's a lot of deep-seated anti-blackness within their thoughts, right? That they will always use this opportunity to find a black person in the wrong and to make an example out of them compared to the numerous times they could have called out white people. Because in their mind, they feel like there's a war on white people, that there is a war on white people with different opinions. And so they feel like that this is a way to humble black people by really, giving somebody a public lashing at this extent. Okay, he slapped somebody. He slapped somebody that basically did not want to file police charges, that did not want to escalate the situation. Clearly, they all understand that there's people in this situation that did wrong on both sides. The thing is, it just goes to tell you that they don't care about whether or not Chris Rock's joke was offensive. No one cares at this point because they're so busy putting the cart before the horse. They're so busy worried about the slap, but they're not worried about what was said to cause it, right? Even if it's not justified or not, I don't see winners in this situation. I don't see Will Smith, what he did. I don't think that was the best way to respond, but he responded, right? But at the end of the day, I don't see Chris Rock being this saint or this innocent victim that just completely was whatever. No, because he talked out of line. He, as people are starting to realize, has had an ongoing history of attacking Jada in jokes and insulting her, right? Like, this was a build-up, right? And even if the build-up didn't justify a slap to you, at the end of the day, there was a lot more here than just a man getting up and slapping someone, right? And that's what I keep trying to tell people, that even when black people are quote-unquote wrong, we wrong with a reason. a lot of people cannot say they're wrong with a reason out here in these streets. White supremacists don't have they're wrong without a reason. Some people be out here wrong we wrong without a reason every single day. But y'all want to put these people in the same box and act like these things make sense. People told Malcolm X that violence was not the answer. And yeah, sure, violence is not the answer. But Malcolm X, had opinions with a reason. He chose violence with a reason. You didn't have to agree that was the necessary answer. But these are situations where people have a reason. But regardless of that at hand, right? The funny thing is to see a lot of Hollywood act like this is the worst thing to ever happen to mankind. Talking about traumatized and triggered, but they sit up here working with directors and filmmakers that have terrorized, raped, and abused people, bigots and racists and anti-Semitics. But y'all sitting up here talking about this is the most ridiculous, shocking thing to ever happen. Fuck out of here. Black people ain't never forgotten. Okay? Same reason why Mel Gibson was at Fox News and they tried to ask Mel Gibson about the Will Smith slap. I'm sitting here looking like, first of all, Fox News, y'all talking about Will Smith is wrong and violence is the answer, yada, yada, yada. But y'all literally got an anti-Semite and a racist on your damn show. And you're asking him what he think about it. And you know what Mel Gibson did? He said, he cut that interview short. See, he knows better than to throw stones from glass houses. He like, y'all not about to put me in this. Because he know he got dirty laundry. Like, y'all now asking Mel Gibson what he think. It's gotten to the point where you want to ask Mel Gibson what he think. As if he gonna add something fruitful to the conversation. But that's how you know at this point nobody cares. Trump supporters are literally trying to tell Will Smith that violence is not the answer. A black man slapping somebody on public TV. And then everyone's saying that it's a bad example for kids and yada, yada, yada. Well, you know what's funny about that? Because I have to think about this. It's interesting to me that everyone's talking about the kids. What about the kids? What about the kids? But one thing that shocked me is that the media has been very consistent on showing the slap without blinking it out. They blink out Will saying, keep my wife's name out your fucking mouth. Oh, they blank that out. But they are literally showing this slap. And not only showing it, but letting you hear the slap. Like, they're literally showing it and then you hear it. And I'm thinking to myself, you all have re-traumatized, if it's so traumatic, you all have re-traumatized these innocent Hollywood multi-million dollar celebrities more times. Like, if you were somebody who said you saw a very violent act, I don't know, the George Floyd video, because we acted like we ain't seen violence. The George Floyd video, right? I was like, stop showing that fucking video. That shit is re-traumatizing people. I remember at some point they was blocking out certain parts of it because of how violent it is. We watched a man get killed on video, and you're trying to act like that is on the same scale of a man slapping somebody in the face for 1 second and going back and sitting down, as if y'all wasn't watching Love and Hip Hop the night before, or Johnson's Cabaret, or wasn't trying to watch Bad Boys Club and watch them throw hands. Shut up. Y'all, shut up. Just shut up. Like, it's just, you get at a point where you just be like, this is like, get out of here. Get out of here with that. I mean, at some point, you start losing a lot of like this is fake outrage. It's performative outrage. And it's an opportunity for some white people to be a Karen all over again. The police should have taken him out. Interesting. The police should have came. That's the answer. Police should have came. You know who came and intervened and did something better with conflict resolution to the police? Was, I don't know, Tyler Perry, Denzel Washington, Bradley Cooper. Interesting, right? Oh, the police should have came. Oh, he should lose his Oscar. Oh, y'all so quick to take things from people. Oh, interesting. Y'all never had that much smoke for Harvey Weinstein. No, they didn't. They did not. I mean, literally, the courts had to come in before people gave a fuck. Y'all don't have none of that smoke for Woody Allen, Roman Polanski. Gave that man a standing ovation. Okay, Mel Gibson's still out here in Hollywood getting films done. So Will did the thing that I thought was the ballsiest thing ever, actually Big Willie style, I thought, was that he just said, you know what? This investigation, all these interviews, Will Packer was on Good Morning America, The View was weighing in. I mean, all this chatter and everybody trying to, put their stake in the claim and say something. You know what's funny? The whole funny thing is that, like, the Oscars have to, like, April 15th or something like that to render a decision or a consequence. And I just think the whole conversation was, oh, he could get expelled and he could get this. And everybody's trying to figure out what was going to happen. And you know what's crazy? Will said, you know what? I'm just going to resign. Will Smith resigned from the Academy. And I just said, you know what? Great. Take the power out of them. Don't wait for them to kick you out. You know how they say, quit before you get fired? They didn't kick him out the Oscars. He resigned. So now the story changes. We'll never know what they would do or what they could do. I mean, if they decide to expel him now, it would just seem very stupid because of the fact that literally the only 3 people who've been expelled by the Academy has been Harvey Weinstein, Roman Polanski, years later, and Bill Cosby. So you're telling me that Will Smith is literally of the same, like Will Smith, a man who's had over a 30-year career of being a peaceful, charming guy who made one mistake in his entire career, that this man is literally on the same level as Roman Polanski, Harvey Weinstein, and Chris Rock. And while all of these other bigots, I'm not Chris Rock, Bill Cosby, Roman Polanski, Harvey Weinstein, but like of all these other bigots, right? Like, I don't know, like Mel Gibson, and other folks like Woody Allen, right? Nobody's asking them to step down. Nobody's asking them to resign. Nobody is trying to consider expelling them, right? They're just like keeping them there. Documentaries that came out about some of these people's scandals. Whole Roman, whole story, Ronan Farrow stories, like investigative pieces, all this shit. And literally Will's the one that's going to be the fourth member to leave. We'll see. We'll see what they decide to do. But I feel like if they try to take his Oscar, which they're not going to do, there are many people who should have Oscars. First of all, what he did has nothing to do with his performance. Like, let's be clear. If we're going to retroactively condemn people for bad behavior and take their Oscars away based on bad behavior, then like I said, those 81 Academy Awards that Harvey Weinstein's group then bragged about, those should be taken away. Those Oscars that well, Bill Cosby never got an Oscar, but let's talk about Roman Polanski. That best actor, that best director Oscar he won for The Pianist, that should be taken away. It's not going to happen. They're not going to take his Oscar. If they ever took his Oscar, I mean, at this point, now that he's resigned, I feel like that's it. That's it. He resigned. That's it. Let it go. Let it go. That's about right. I know people that didn't got that job and slap somebody. What they do? They get fired. They lose their job. You know. Chris doesn't seem to want to do nothing. I mean, his brother's out here calling Jada all kind of disrespectful words. I mean, his family out here, violence is dancing. They're out here talking about violence now. They out here still trying to keep the shit going. Tony Rock, who got his big break being in the show that was done by Will and Jada. All in the family. All in one. Whatever it's called. All in One or whatever. That's Jada and Will produced the show. They had Dwayne Martin and a bunch of other actors. And Tony Rock, that was the major show Tony Rock has been in. Chris Rock's brother, Tony Rock. And now his brother is using this whole situation to build attention to himself. It's so funny because he's still making attacks at Jada. At the end of the day, it was Will who made the decision. If you want to go make jokes about Will, whatever, why is Jada's name still in y'all motherfucking mouth? I look at James Corden, who is still corny, who is not funny, who's still fucking, just such a loser. He does a whole comedy routine talk about something we don't talk about Jada. Again, why is everybody still making jokes about Jada? Why are we still talking about Jada? Jada didn't do shit. And yet that's still happening. Black women are still going to be the target, even when they don't say anything. She literally put up an Instagram post saying this should be a time for healing, and you all still want to cause harm. But I feel like these are one of those situations where we're going to look back as a community and realize how being white people showed their ass. But there were also some black people that showed their ass. There's also some black people that perpetuated anti-blackness and didn't realize it. Jonathan Capehart, who's a Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist at the Washington Post, he's now the associate editor for the Washington Post, did a column, older black gay man, did a column talking about Will Smith and just talking about that respectability is a tax that black people have to pay to get the American dream. Oh my fucking God. He even did a tweet, and I thought it was April Fool's, where he said that, Will Smith, white people were watching. And I'm just like, what? We're still in the white gaze? We're still, no pun intended, we're still worried about how white people perceive us? We're still worried about, how that's going to impact? Please. I keep trying to tell people, if Will Smith can make one bad mistake in his entire career, and these people turn on him like that, it's one thing to just say what Will Smith did was wrong. But the way these people did a complete 180 on Will, it's almost like I said, these people were cordial, but these people didn't like him. The way that some of these people are showing up and showing out, I mean, no level of mercy. The only person that's really been showing upstanding character in this has been Denzel. Denzel has been having a level of mercy and grace for Will. And also, while, saying, hey, this is wrong, but also just having some grace. None of these people are getting any grace in the situation. It's just very interesting how we talk about grace and forgiveness and second chances for folks who have done far worse. Far worse. Creating, hoax and things and faking hate crimes. I don't know. But, it's just interesting, we who we cherry pick to give it to and who we don't. And how we double down and pile on people in their worst moments. I mean, I just think about that. It just shows you that you could be the biggest black person, Hollywood, one of the biggest known black superstars on the planet, and you can make one bad decision, and the way that people will sack you compared to how they sack everybody else who's made mistakes. All these white, people who have abused people, have fought people, have had addiction problems and all kind of shit that did harmful things. Those people get treated as rock and roll and it gets given second chances of being forgiven. Interesting. Even in our own community. That's why I was looking at some of these people like, y'all got all this to say about Will Smith, but y'all didn't say that about Chris Brown. Y'all gave R. Kelly all the chances in the world. Interesting. Like I said before, interesting. And I just feel like in these type of moments, these people are very telling about where they stand and what they do. And to be clear for people who want to know what happened to him with the Academy. So what this means is that he will not be able to be a voting member. It doesn't mean he can't be nominated. He can still be nominated for Oscars. The Academy can far and wide, the members can still nominate him, and that can still happen. He can't vote, and he most likely, he can still be a guest at the Oscars as a nominee. So he could come back next year as a nominee. He can still get nominated and everything, and show to the award show and all of those things, He just can't be a voting member, and he can't get screeners and all that kind of access. But other than that, that's it. To be honest, how many of us think that Will Smith is going to get another Oscar anyway? I think this was like a career-defining moment for him. It took him years. It took him 25 years of of acting roles and movies to get to this point to finally win one, or many years before that. But this is like, he's waited a quarter of a century to get to this point in his career to finally win one. And so it's not like I feel like he's going to get a bunch of them moving forward. Now, he can still get nominated, but, at the end of the day, time will tell. But I feel like we're going to look back at this and think about all the other things that happened. And I know, like I said, David Dennis Jr. was making this really good point on social media. He was saying that this had me laughing, y'all. There was a whole incident happening at the Oscars, with the Oscars party about Beyonce and Jay-Z. There was a location they was at, and union workers were, boycotting and putting up a picket against the location, the venue in LA that they had, because of, they were saying, unpaid labor, abuse, and other issues. And literally that protest was happening outside of Beyonce and Jay-Z's party. And no one talked about how they crossed over literally the picket fence to go party, even though these union workers were going through it. Interesting. Scab behavior. And it didn't get that much coverage because everybody was talking about the slap. But I was like, that could have been a big story. And no one really talked about it. That this was very anti-union. Interesting. Our favorite black capitalists strike again. The as my friend said, the capitalist Carters strike again. But moving on to Darius Crooks. Oh my goodness. All of y'all. Darius Crooks. Okay. Fox 5 in Atlanta is doing a big investigative story about Darius Crooks. They're looking into his history of doxing people. That was the issue that came back up. They're looking into his history of doxing his customers, some other complaints. It's now to hit the local news. It is, it's finally about to be a thing. And it's local, and it's Atlanta, and Atlanta is covering it. And this is going to be, on Monday, this reporter that's there, white investigative reporter, is now on to Darius Crooks. And, it's a big damn deal. The thing about it is that, what made me think about this, y'all know from over the past year, I've been covering and talking about Darius Crooks because of Angela the Kitchenista. She's been doing great work, Angela, the Kitchenista Davis. Her name is Angela Davis. Yes, Angela Davis. And she's an Aries. She is no longer on Twitter. She's gotten off Twitter because it was just so much negativity she had around her talking out about Darius Crooks. And I just feel like, this weekend has vindicated her in so many ways, because she's been talking about this for a while, and everybody was acting like she was a hater and she was this and she was that. Well, first of all of her recipes are original. She cooks her own food. She cooks better. Her social media platforms are legit and organized. I don't understand how we saying she's a hater. But, they were always, it was just a lot of people who just really tried to discredit her. And I interviewed her, on this podcast. You can go back and look at that special edition episode in season 1, where we and her had a really great conversation about her work and what she was doing on this case. And I believed her from day one about his issues. I saw some of the stuff around Sonny Anderson, some of the other people that spoke out at that time. I did a whole story about it in the Daily Beast. We kept the conversation going and built the body of work. A lot of us, articles, receipts, all those things that made sure that this now reporter can now Google and see what has been said previously about Darius Crooks. So now there's going to be a whole news story on Fox 5 Atlanta, and now everybody wants to jump in and talk about it. And my whole thing is, it takes, and as a black journalist, this also annoys me. One, it annoys me as a black person that black women oftentimes speak out in these ways and no one believes them or no one actually takes their word for it. But then the other thing to be on it as a black journalist is that no one cares when we report these stories and say this, but then the moment a white man comes in the story or some mainstream outlet or some white man knocks on the door, then all of a sudden everybody need to wake up and straighten up. It's the anti-blackness for me. Like we just continue to prioritize white people's opinions or work or thoughts above everybody else in the community. And to me, that's going to be setting us back more than anything that can happen as far as a slap or embarrassment or whatever. Amanda Seales talk about Will Smith was wrong because he let, white people see us not being in unison. Who gives a fuck? Again, white people are not the standard or the ideal group of people that we should be concerning ourselves with about how we live and how we act. Lord knows they don't think about how they act in public when they do certain things. They don't consider black. Like, I never heard a white person who shows in violence say, what would a black community think about us now? They don't care. They don't care. But we, right, as black people, we have people in our community that are consistently thinking about what white people think. That should make you worried. Like, even after all that has happened, we're still thinking about what white people think. And then we're wondering why white supremacy continues to persist, because we continue to create a diaphragm around this idea, a paradigm actually around this idea that, when white people are upset about what we do, then that should take priority above everything else that we do. That should not be the case. Just keeping it 100. So, Darius Crooks is about to have another saga. And I know that there's going to be a lot of press about it. And I'm curious to see what happens. He's telling people he's blocking folks because he really don't want to deal with the pressures that be. But it's out there now. It's out there. So we're going to see what's going to happen. Speaking of award shows and drama, the Grammys are Sunday night. I'm super excited. Award shows, man. I mean, let me just say this. The Academy Awards was very good. Ratings went up by 50-something% since, a lot of things were happening. But, I'm curious to see what the Grammys is going to bring now, because normally the Grammys kind of have the spiciness, or the Golden Globes. But like Oscars brought that heat, no pun intended. But I'm curious to see what's happening with the Grammys. Trevor Noah is the host. I just have mixed thoughts about Trevor Noah. There are times I'm like, oh, he's so profound. And there's times I'm like, oh, God, he's just so doesn't get it. But he's hosting the show. I'm curious to see what's going to happen. I mean, I heard they weren't inviting Kanye back because of his threats towards Pete Davidson. I think now people are laughing at that now because, look what's happened. But I wonder what's going to happen. I don't know if they're going to bring him back into the fold, have him perform, do something. But I say all this to say that it's going to be very interesting to see who's going to win these awards. I had a really good prediction scorecard. Y'all. But the Oscars, all of my final picks were all won. Did y'all notice that? Did y'all peep that? Like, all of the people I predicted last week for the Oscars won. So I'm feeling good that my predictions were spot on. Yep, that's right. No shockers. They stayed by the book. Very happy. That made me feel good. But anyway, my prediction for the Grammys is complicated because Grammys could go any way nowadays. If I was to pick the album of the year, it's gonna probably be between Olivia Rodrigo for Sour or Billie Eilish, because Billie Eilish keep winning these awards. I mean, she just won an Oscar now. She beat Beyonce, which I predicted was gonna happen. She just wins. She won Record of the Year last year when everyone thought that Savage was gonna win. Billie Eilish is always like a safe bet for voters, clearly, at the Academy. They really like her. So I could see her winning for Happier Than Ever. And my husband loves that album. He keeps saying that's the album of the year. Her second album, her sophomore album. He actually liked it more than the first album. I like both albums. I appreciated the departure. She had a strong sophomore album that was like very cool and very redefining and put her in a different space. I just love the album. I'm a really big Billie Eilish fan, to be honest. So I can see her winning album of the year again, or Olivia Rodrigo winning. It's going to be either of those two. But don't be surprised if, like, I don't know, Lady Gaga and Tony Bennett, surprise everybody with a win. You just never know how the Oscars going to play out. Record of the year, I think it's going to probably be Silk Sonic. I can't stand it, but, Leave the Door Open might win. I don't know if Olivia Rodrigo going to win for driver's license. I mean, Billie Eilish, yeah, she could. You know who else could pull an upset, which would be cool, would be Lil Nas X for Call Me By Your Name. But I don't know if he's going to have enough strength to pull that off because it's been such a while since the song came out. But I can see, Silk Sonic. Silk Sonic is opening up the Grammys, by the way, on Sunday night. So I feel like there's some energy for them. But like that album was just so like subpar. The song, they haven't had a hit since that one song. Like the other songs they've released never hit. It kind of just came and went. Like I just feel like they're just so corny. I just think they're corny. Bruno is corny. I just think they're corny. I just think they just want more Grammys. But they could win, leave the door open. I could see it. But I also can see Billie Eilish. But I also can see Lil Nas X. I don't think Olivia Rodrigo going to pull it off. But she could. She could just sweep everything. You never know. Song of the year, it's complicated. I can see Olivia Rodrigo winning for driver's license in that category. I could also see, because Good For You wasn't in there, and I thought that was interesting, that Good For You, because I thought Good For You had record of year material too, but it was driver's license they're trying to push. I could see her winning Song of the Year for the song she already won an Oscar for, which is the song for Fight For You. I could see that winning and being a surprise winner, because she won Song of the Year last year for, her Black Lives Matter song that was really good. I can see her winning in this category. So we don't know, but I can see that. I can see that as well. So don't be surprised if her or Olivia Rodrigo wins. Either or Billie Eilish pulling another upset. Best New Artist, I'm going to put my money on Olivia Rodrigo. I think she's going to win. I think like this is a safe bet win for her. I feel like she's going to win a Grammy, and it's going to be for Best New Artist. However, Phineas, Billie Eilish's brother, very popular. Her brother is winning awards right next to her. Y'all keep looking at Billie Eilish's wins. Her brother's winning right next to her. They're like a little tag team duo. All right? So I see some potential there as well. Other categories. I mean, those are the general categories. I mean, pop album, rap album, I don't know. You never, I don't really, I'm not going to say I don't care about those categories, but they're just like interesting. But what I will say though is, look at who wins in those pop categories, because those will be indicators of how some of these general categories might play out. I'll say that much. I would be happy to see if Lil Nas X wins another Grammy. That'd be nice for him. I could see him winning for music video or something. And who knows? I know he's performing, which is exciting. So he's going to perform with Jack Harlow. So we'll see. We'll see how that plays out. I would like him to win another Grammy. Speaking of award shows, because I know a lot of people have been hitting me up. So the GLAAD Awards, their first half of their awards was on April 2nd, on Saturday, April 2nd. And people were like, did you win? Did you win? I'm like, so it's complicated. So, not complicated if I win or not. Let me explain. So the thing is, they have a bunch of categories. The GLAAD Awards is split up in two awards. They have an award on the award show on the West Coast and the East Coast in New York. So the East Coast award show is on May 6th. And then they had the West Coast show on Saturday night on April 2nd. So on April 2nd, they announced all of the winners in mostly the movie categories. So like all of the movies and TV, like the major production categories, they announced those winners in the West Coast over there, because a lot of Hollywood people live in the West Coast. The East Coast is those categories, including my category, they're going to announce those in New York because that's more of a media town or whatever. So my category and my award, if I win or whatever, will be announced on May 6th. So I know, keep me in your best wishes and thoughts. But I will find out May 6th at the East Coast Award show for the GLAAD Awards. So, the suspense lingers on, right? Because I would have loved the suspense to know, like, April, like, get out the way. But no, they're gonna keep the suspense going. We're gonna find out. It'd be nice. Listen, it'd be nice. I like it. I would be happy. But again, I'm happy to be nominated. I mean, to even be nominated for a major award, like, we're talking about the Grammys, the Oscars, NAACP awards, the GLAAD Awards. I'm a GLAAD Award nominee. That's exciting. I'm feeling all the thrills. So let's see if I win. Let's find out. But May 6th, that's when that will happen. So wrapping up, Bad Boys Club, y'all, a hot mess, but a good one. I've been watching it, y'all. I've been following it. The second episode, look, the verdict is still out. I told someone the other day, I don't believe you could judge a show or a series until you get to the fourth episode. Like, when I got to the fourth episode of Abbott Elementary, which, again, Abbott is killing it, I was like, okay, this show is the shit. Because I know that people will drop a bomb-ass pilot. I know that the second episodes or whatever are oftentimes done with the same energy. But when you get to that fourth episode of any show, that to me determines, especially a new show, that determines whether or not you're going to rock with it or you're going to leave it. I feel like once you get to the fourth episode, you get familiar with things. Like some of the characters get more fleshed out. You're working in the groove. Because you got to remember that when a pilot show come out, maybe the main character or some other characters have not shown up. But by the fourth episode, all the major characters are now going to be out. Now there is you get familiar with the real plot line, the real issue. A pilot show doesn't oftentimes give you that much. They might give you a little bit to bite on, but by the fourth episode, you start to get familiar with the major crisis or you start to get familiar with the loop. A real good TV show knows this. As a member of the National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences, the Emmys, Mid-Atlantic chapter, I can vote and I judge local and regional television shows and things like that for their Emmys. Look, I will tell you, that's how it works. If the fourth show determines whether you stay or go. If you don't make it past if you don't even make it past the pilot, then that means you don't like the show. It's going to get canceled. But most shows, if you're following it, you got to judge it by the fourth episode. So I'm still looking. As far as Atlanta goes, I'm on the third episode this season. The fourth episode come out, but I love Atlanta. Atlanta's been killing it. Atlanta has made me, every time I think I'm going to get annoyed with Donald Glover, I just always fall in love with him again and just be like, you know what? Okay, you smart. This is smart. Okay, I get it. I appreciate it. There's a lot of, it's good. It's just good TV. But Abbott has been killing it. It's been killing it. And I have to say, now that Bel Air's over, I have to say they made me rethink. I didn't like it. I was a little hesitant when I first saw it, but Bel Air was a very good show. The finale was interesting. I don't want to give it away, but the finale was definitely good. I hope it gets renewed for a second season. I really, really like the show. And you know what? My favorite character is Carlton. I think Carlton should get all of the awards attention. I think that actor has the range. I think that he is really what kept the show going. I mean, there was definitely villains in the show, and it was not Carlton per se, but Carlton's character, like how he went from hating Will to loving Will to really, I don't want to tell it, but like the end episode when he finally, anyway, love him. And he's from Houston, so everything in Houston is great. But no, he just really made the most out of that character. He really took a character that went from being a laughingstock to being someone that has layers and volume and range. And I just found him more compelling than Will. I'm not saying that Jabari Banks, like I said before, is not a good actor. I just feel like the show you really fall in love with. I just feel like Carlton's story arc and journey was just so compelling. And so I just would love a good Best Supporting Actor nomination for him and other award shows and stuff down the road. Put his name in there, y'all. He deserves it. So I'll say that. As far as everything else been going, listen, April showers. It's about to go down in April. I have a feeling it's about to go down in April. I feel like people are about to show their ass and cut the fuck up, as they should. And until then, as always, I'm going to be on the case. So until then, as always, be well and be best. Ernestly Speaking is recorded in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and can be found on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. To stay up to date with the latest on the show, follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Mr. Ernest Owens. Use the hashtag Ernestly Speaking to tell me what you thought about this episode, and check out my website at ernestowens.com.